Hey, and welcome back. Now we're going to look at the distribution function. So we're skipping past sequence and we're going to the distributions function. Again, this is something you'd be doing specifically in AP statistics. You go in here, there's a bunch of distributions you learn about. One of the most important is called the normal distribution, but you spend some time with the binomial and the chi-squared and the t-distribution and the geometric. Those are the ones we focus on. We don't go to the Fisher's F, the Poisson, the hypergeometric. We don't spend any time in the exponential, the uniform. But those other four we're going to use, and they're displayed over here: normal, binomial, geometric, t, normal, and chi-squared again. So we're going to try and answer these questions. I'll show you how to use your calculator to answer them. This first one, okay, it says it's normal, right? We have a certain type of snake follows a normal distribution. So over on our calculator, right, we'll go to normal. And it says the mean, so I'm going to plug in 35. It says the standard deviation, we'll plug in 3 and go to next. And this calculator is great because right away it shows you a visual. So what we know is that most snakes are in this range from about maybe 24 to 45. Almost all snakes are in that range. Most of them are in the center, hovering around 35. So it says, what's the probability a snake is longer than 40? How do you do that? Well, you just change this to 40, but that's not longer than. That visually shows you it's less than. So you go over here and you change this to the right side and you go back to 40 and you can see the answer. Okay, 0.04779, so 4.779%. Now it says, how about between 30 and 36? So we go over here and we change to the between, and we go 30 and 36, and 58% of the snakes are between 30 and 36. And then it says, finally, it says 15% of snakes are longer than what length? So longer would mean we'd have to be over this way. And then we're not putting in the length, we're putting the percentage. So I'm going to put in 0.15 here and hit enter. And it gives the answer right there. It says, okay, if you're longer than 38.1 centimeters, you'd be in the top 15% of snakes. Okay, it's that easy. If you used a different calculator before this, you're realizing how much easier this is. All right, the next thing we're looking at is a binomial situation. So I'm going to binomial. And a binomial situation is when you have something that can be determined as a success or failure. So it's binary. Okay. The events are independent, meaning that as you get successes or failures, it's not changing them. Like drawing cards out of a deck of cards is not independent, but flipping a coin is, and potentially shooting a free throw is. Those types of things are considered independent. And the probability of success stays the same. And what we're keeping track of is the number of successes in a certain number of trials. So we know how many times we're going to be shooting the coin or shooting the basket or flipping the coin. So in this case, it says we are going to shoot 10 free throws. So that's N. And we have a 60% chance of making it. That's P. We go to next. And you can see right down here that it shows you how likely it is to get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see there's really nothing at 0 or 1 because it's very unlikely that you'd make only 0 or 1 if you are supposed to make 60% of them. So what's the probability they make more than 6? Okay, so we want more than. And this is greater than or equal to. So you'd have to put greater than or equal to 7. Or you could put 6.1, but you can see that doesn't change. It just actually makes it go to 7 because these are integers. Okay? And they're actually natural numbers, whole numbers. So there's a 38% chance that you make more than 6. And then it says, how about between 5 and 8? So we go to the between, and we go to 5 and 8, and there's a 78% chance you make between 5 and 8. And then it says exactly 6. So you can go to, one of the things you can do is you can go 6 to 6. That actually gives you the answer. That's the one I like. And it also shades it in right here. It highlighted the 6. Or if you want to, you can choose this one with the line and you can put in 6. But it gave you the same answer. Okay. So I almost always use the between one, because even if I want more than 6, I could go 6 to 99 and then give the answer, because 6 to 99 and 6 to 12 is the same answer, and 6 to 10 is the same answer, because 10 is the most you can make. So you can get less than, more than, or equal to with this middle one. So that's one I typically use. All right, the next one is a geometric situation. So I'm going to geometric. So in this one, it says you roll a fair six-sided die until you get a 4. So in this case, you don't have a fixed number of trials. I'm not going to roll a die 10 times or 20 times or 3 times. I'm just going to keep going until I get a success. So that's a geometric situation. You keep going until you get a success. So I have a six-sided die. I want to get a 4. There's only 1 in 6 chance that I get a 4. So I'm going to put in 1/6 as a probability and go to next. And you can see I'm most likely to get it on my first roll. Okay. But after a while, the sum of these probabilities turns into you're going to get it eventually, basically. I mean, there's a chance that you never get it, but that's virtually 0. It says, what's the probability it takes you more than 3 rolls? Okay. So I can go to here, which is the greater than, and I don't want greater than or equal to 3. I want greater than or equal to 4. Because I want more than 3 rolls. So you can see it highlights the ones that I want. They're all here highlighted with orange and black instead of the gray. The gray are the unhighlighted ones. So 57.87%. And then it says between 2 and 6. So 2 to 6. And it's 49.8. And again, like I said with the last one, if I wanted more than 3, I could go 4 to some really big number. And this isn't perfect because in this case, it could go on forever. But that's so big that the decimal places are so small. That's the same answer as if I put in more than 3. And finally, it says that you probably takes 2 rolls. So I could put in 2 to 2. Or if you prefer, you can choose this one that says x equals 2. It's the same number. So there's a 13.8% chance you get it on the second roll, which means you didn't get it the first time and then got it the second time. So if you'd like to know how it's done, that would be 5/6 times 1/6. That was your chance of getting it. So this should be 5/36. All right, our next situation is called the t-distribution. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to choose the student's t. Okay. And the first thing it says is degrees of freedom. All right. Well, what does that mean? Well, in the student's t-distribution, you are estimating the standard deviation of the population or the standard deviation of the sampling distribution. And you're using this sample. So depending on how big your sample is, you get better or worse estimates. The bigger your sample, the better. So we need to know how big the sample is because it helps us understand which of these distributions to use because there's a family of t-distributions. So this says we take a sample of 25 people. So that means we have 24 degrees of freedom. It's 1 less than the sample size. Hit next. Okay, and it says you get a test statistic of 1.9 on a two-sided hypothesis test. What's the p-value? Okay. Okay, so I could do negative 1.94 to 1.94. And you can see that the area in the middle is 0.93578. So the p-value is the area in the ends. So you could subtract this from 1. Or if you prefer, you could go a greater than and put in 1.94. And you could double this, okay? So to get the p-value, you'd calculate from the test statistic to infinity or to negative infinity, depending on, because the p-value, the probability of getting the result you got or something more unusual. So from here away from the mean, calculate that probability. And since it's a two-sided test, you'd have to double that. So it's about 6.4% is this p-value. Probably not going to reject the null. And this is what's the critical value for 94% confidence. Now this is where this calculator is really slick. So you go here, you put in 0.94, you hit enter, and it says the critical value, if you wanted to run a 94% confidence interval, the area between here is 94%. You need to go 1.974 standard deviations left and right of 0 to incorporate that. So that's how you get your critical value. All right, the next distribution is back to the normal, but instead of just calculating probabilities, we're going to look at if you run a test. Okay. All right, so it says you take a sample of 85 people and ask if they like to play soccer. Okay. You get a test statistic of negative 1.94 on a one-sided test. So if we're talking about test statistics, that's a z-score. So the mean is 0, the standard deviation is 1. And you got a negative 1.94 on a one-sided test. We put a negative 1.94 here, hit enter, and the p-value is that 0.026, right? So the probability of being as far away from the mean as you got, so here's the mean at 0, as far away as you got or further by chance alone, there's a 0.026%. This would cause us to typically reject the null in most circumstances. And then the next part is if you're running a hypothesis test and need a critical value, you just go to this one with the middle, and you put in 0.92. That's our probability, our confidence level. You hit enter, and it says 1.751 approximately, or 1.7507 you could use. That would give you your critical value. The number of standard deviations you need to go left and right of the mean to get the area that you're looking for. All right, and our last one is this thing called a chi-square distribution. So that's right here. This also has degrees of freedom. And it says you're running a chi-squared goodness of fit test with 6 categories. So if there's 6 categories, there's 5 degrees of freedom. It says you get a test statistic of 4.98. What is the p-value? So I'm going to go here, 4.98. So the p-value, again, as defined earlier, and you learned this in your course, is the probability of getting the result you got or something more unusual. So the probability of getting 4.98 or something further away from what you expect. In the chi-squared, you expect 0. You expect the difference between what you got and what you expected to get to be 0. So you would go away from 0. So this has a p-value of 0.418, which is not statistically significant. We wouldn't reject the null in that case. And that says, what's the smallest test statistic that would cause you to reject at the 2% level? So we'd put in 0.02 here, and you can see 13.38. So that is our kind of our cutoff. So when you get a test statistic that big, you would reject. So when you ran the test, if you ran a test and you said, oh, my chi-squared was 13, ooh, not big enough to reject. But if you got a 15 or 14, that would be big enough to reject the null hypothesis. So that's all about distributions.